Welcome to Chess Puzzles Explanation. Unlike other videos, I'm trying to do this live. Let us see if we can get this right. So we see this is almost towards the end game here. We have a rook and a queen in G and H files respectively, which should give us some advantage because it will cover the king as well as the squares that are surrounding the king. So let's see what are the options that we have. So here we can see that there are a lot of unprotected pieces for the black. So the bishop is unprotected, the queen is unprotected, which means that we should be able to make some use of it. And the pawn structure in front of the king is favoring the black because we will not be able to attack it, though we have three powers which are aiming towards these 9 squares. So but probably what we can do is, amongst these squares, this looks like the weak square because there is nothing protecting this other than the king, which means that if we create a battery we should be able to attack this square effectively. This square is not much of an option because it is already being protected by the pawn on g7, so looks like targeting g7 makes better sense. Now we have our queen here, so probably we can move it to g6 in the hope of like capturing the pawn in the next move. As a response to this, black can either play rook to g8 or rook to f7. So these will be like two options for the enemy rook, but irrespective, right, I think we should be able to make some gain there. Now let us say if he moves it here, then we'll be able to directly capture that. So moving rook to f7 is not much of a solution. Let's say if they try to move the rook to g8, then because as we'll have our queen here, we can see that because we have our queen here and their queen is unprotected, this pawn pretty much becomes pinned, which means that we should be able to capture the pin here, capture the pawn here, because they'll not be able to capture this. If they try, then we'll be able to capture the queen, which will give us an option for having a battery with queen in the front, which means that we will be able to deliver a checkmate in the next move. So looks like this is a good enough analysis for us to decide our first move. Let's start with queen to g6 and see how it goes from there. Okay, so this is the right move. Oh, okay, so they have moved their queen here, which is something that we did not consider. So let's look at like what are the other options that we have now. So we will not be able to attack the queen directly and will not be able to attack the king also directly. So let's say we capture this, they'll be able to do this but will not be able to do much. Now let's say if we try to capture, they will be able to capture the pawn back, so that's also not going to be so useful. But if we capture this pawn, they will not be able to capture because this pawn is basically pinned by the rook against the queen. So I think that's a good move. Let's go ahead with the bishop capture. Okay, we see that they were not able to move it and they captured. So now what are the options that we have? While that was okay, we still don't have a clear advantage here, so we need to bring some more force now. Let's say we can either attack the rook or we can attack this pawn right now, because this pawn is still pinned, right, which means that probably we can capture the rook back, and if they capture the rook back, we'll be able to target their queen. So I think this is a good move. Yeah, while we were not able to deliver a checkmate here again, it was useful for us to make use of that to gain material. Thank you.